Morrison Government will also announce additional support for a range of women's health initiatives. The funding will form part of a 50-plus page statement focused on women, the first of its kind in 2 decades. In the lead-up to the budget, Chief Anchor Kieran Gilbert spent time with the Treasurer Josh Frydenberg at home in Melbourne.
Josh Frydenberg scarcely sees his family in the weeks leading up to the budget, but in a rare insight into his preparations and personal life, Sky News paid a visit to him and his family in his electorate of Kooyong.
It's good, he's nearly there.
Oh, right near the end, you've nearly done it. One more. Bravo.
He says his wife Amy and 2 young children, Blake and Gemma, are the lens through which he looks at life.
I knew that they were doing it pretty tough through lockdown, just like every family indeed in Victoria was, and so many other families around the country, as our Defence Force personnel or our health professionals were working day and night to keep us all safe. But they got through it, and Amy, my wife, has been a rock star.
Hey, Blake.
Particularly in the wake of last year's lockdowns, hitting Melbourne harder than anywhere else across the nation.
Last year would have been a tough year when it was through the eye of the storm. How did you manage that? Because he was away so often, running the economy, trying to keep things afloat.
Oh, look, I guess I'm used to Josh being away a lot and working long hours. So even when he's in Melbourne at home, he's often out before the kids wake up and gets home after they get to bed. So it wasn't hugely different to us in that respect. Obviously the pressures were really high, and there was a lot of stress as well, and we had the same stresses as every family, particularly in Victoria.
The family focus isn't just personal for Josh Frydenberg. He says it's key to how he and the government have framed the upcoming budget. Already the Coalition has announced a $1.7 billion boost for childcare subsidies, set to benefit 250,000 families. Now, Sky News can reveal there will also be a sharpened focus on women's health and economic security.
There is a standalone substantial women's budget statement. You'd have to go back to the 1990s to find an equivalent document. And it not only details the economic impact of COVID on women, but also the details around the individual measures in women's economic security, women's safety, as well as women's health.
New funding to assist the more than 830,000 Australian women and girls with endometriosis, and to help drive down the rate of premature birth.
Women's safety has been a key priority for the Morrison Government. We've already announced substantial funding. There'll be more in the budget with a series of targeted measures.
On Tuesday night, Josh Frydenberg will outline Australia's next steps on the post-pandemic road to recovery. His third budget, so different from the first two. Since his October economic update, the economy's been bolstered by restriction relief and the resumption of domestic travel, but there's no doubt that COVID challenges and some of the costs remain.
How would you characterise this budget ahead of you delivering it on Tuesday?
Well, Kieran, this is another pandemic budget, but there is a road to recovery, and Australia is seeing some very positive signs with the economy, but we're not out of this crisis yet.
This pandemic budget is also in part a pre-election budget. May 21st next year, the latest possible date for the poll. And with the looming showdown in mind, comes a policy and rhetoric rethink.
I think he's handled it very well. The recovery has been quicker and stronger than I expected. I think the key to his success and that of the government, I mean, bear in mind their collective government policies, is that given the opportunity of providing a buffer, the government didn't cheese pair about it.
The Treasurer's mentor, John Howard, among those praising his performance, particularly throughout the pandemic. It's that performance that has led many to view him as the next in line for the top job. But for now, his family will be happy enough to have him home.
He's definitely the biggest kid in the house. So when he's home, I have 3 children, but they just love it. He comes home, he's always loud, comes with presents, rolling around on the floor, giving them piggyback rides, and it's just pure joy when he's home.
Well, that's where I'd always rather be, at home with the kids rather than at the desk at work. Although the kitchen table's often been the desk through the course of the last couple of years, but I couldn't do what I do, just like so many other people couldn't do what they do without the support at home, and Amy's been a superstar. My kids are my life.
Kieran Gilbert, Sky News, Canberra.